Welcome back to The Million. I am sitting down with Carson Tejan, my apprentice this year. Brother, tell me a little bit about how all that went down on the whole never pay off your house.
Yeah, so those debates were crazy. Really good experience. But I have to say this first, Kris. You are like freaking Matilda. You know, she's like, she can process large numbers very quickly in her head. That's you. Like what I realized when I was out there talking to people and your feedback to me at the end was, Carson, you need to dive into the numbers more. I'm like, how do you do it? You like have this brain for numbers, Kris.
You know, it is true that I do have a brain for that, but there's a cheat. I will tell you, when I was in college, I wanted to be a doctor. I could not get higher than a C in my organic chemistry. And basically my advisor said, you're never gonna be a doctor. It's like a decade of science class. This is not your thing. And so I was just like, oh, weeder classes are tough because they're only trying to give A's to 10% of the class. I'm not in the top 10. I just wasn't. But when they put me in stats, it was the same thing. It's a weeder class for MBA school. It's hard. First time in my life, I would sometimes skip class and not do homework. Out of 200 kids in my class, they graded the curve on me. Like, I love numbers and numbers love me. Like, I get them. Ratios, percentages. I'm not talking about like calculus and trigonometry, like functional math. It's like really quick fifth grade math.
Business math.
Business math, for sure. And so a lot of the numbers that I share sound impressive, but those are actually memorized facts. The ones that I'm doing in my head are actually just a couple of different calculations. There's a couple of things I think that everyone should be able to know. For example, how much equity is in your home? Like you have a $500,000 house. And it's worth $500,000, but you owe $250,000 on it. Well, there's just some quick cheats on that. A bank will generally let you go up to 90%. So you just have to ask, what's 10% of 500,000?
50K.
Yeah, now take 50K and take it off of 500. What are you left with?
450.
Yeah, so the bank will lend you up to 450, but what do you owe?
250.
So what's the difference between 250 and 450? The difference between 250 and 450
200.
is 200. So you look at the house like, oh, you have $200,000 in usable equity. Now, if you practiced that equation just a few more times, you're like, oh, I can get within a rough approximation.
Well, and let me throw this at you, Kris. I remember I was in a trigonometry class in high school, and I was actually really enjoying it. For the first time, I was like, I made the decision to like math.
Yeah.
And I'm like actually going to exert myself.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot in that class. But I found myself still getting answers wrong. And when I'd go up to the teacher afterward, and like we'd talk about it, she'd look through my math, and she'd be like, you got the concept. You did all the steps right. But you see here when it said 9 plus 3, you put 11, and 9 plus 3 is 12.
Yeah.
I would get an entire equation in trigonometry wrong.
Yeah, but I got news for you.
The small math.
Yeah, there's good news for you.
Yes, tell me the good news.
What we just did is fifth grade math.
Uh-huh.
It's probably third grade math, just with extra zeros. Like what we just did there, like we could do it again. I have a house that is worth, we'll make it more complicated, $600,000 and I owe $200,000 on it.
And you do that and I would start reaching for my calculator.
No. Just look at it real quick. The house is worth how much?
600.
And what do you owe?
200,
Okay, now the bank will let you go to 90% of that 600. So what's 10% of 600?
60.
60. So what's 60 minus 600?
540.
So it's 540. What's the difference between what you owe 200 and 540?
340.
340,000? You have $340,000. Now, when you practice that same simple equation, then you're right. I'm sitting across from someone. I'm like, oh, you have, no. $340,000. Yeah, it's impressive, but actually there's only a handful of equations.
Okay.
And so, real estate's not that hard. I think a lot of times when I first looked at real estate, I was nervous at the jargon because I'm like, what's rent versus mortgage? What's taxes, insurance, principal and interest?
LTV.
What's loan to value?
An APR.
And so, yeah, they're like, if you're going to become a real estate investor, you do have to learn, like, honestly, 25 words. It's like 25 new vocabulary. It's not that much. It's intimidating because we don't use the words every day. What's my amortization schedule? What did you just say? It's like, well, they're using weird, complicated math to figure out how to pay off your house over 30 years. It's not linear on the interest. They're going to front load the interest. And so you're going to pay off most of the house on the back half versus the front half. So they have a weird name for the way they're charging you interest so that you pay for the house 3 times. It's called amortization. So at first it's like, it's just kind of a weird word. But once you learn the lingo, you're good. And then once you learn a little bit of math, like how do you calculate an ROI? Like this one's really simple. Let's calculate ROI. This is the other math. So one is how much equity is in my house, and the other one is like how much money am I going to make on the deal? If you put an investment out there of $100,000, the equation to figure out what your ROI is to basically take what you put out, you're going to take your gain, you're going to divide it by what you invested, and you're going to times it by 100. So if my gain was 100 grand, but my investment was 100 grand. What's 100 grand divided by 100 grand?
One.
It's one.
Times
Times it,
100,
then you times it by
100% on your
100. It's
money.
100%. But
Which means 100% of your money means you doubled.
yes. But then you say, but it took me 3 years to do that. So I have to take
33.
my 100% and divide it by
3.
3 years, which is going to be
33.
33%.
So 33% of my money.
Yeah, I'm getting a 33% ROI per annum on my investment. My total ROI is 100%. My annual ROI is 33. Look how smart you sound now. And by
With
the way,
nice-
that's not just sounding smart. You are smart, right? Like that's rubber hits the road on performance on money.
Let me tackle this a different direction and just see what you think, Kris, because you're throwing me nice softballs, nice round numbers, knowing that my mind just doesn't grab onto numbers the way yours does. Like,
Okay.
do you remember that assignment, how I was like, and we can probably charge $1,300 a month on rent for this.
Yeah.
And you came and you're like, dude, you can charge probably like $1,800 where you're at. I knew that. I just remembered the wrong number in the moment, and I do that often.
Nate, I totally understand.
You forget names.
I do. I forget names.
A lot of people don't know this about
You
you.
know what's really embarrassing is when you're making love to your wife.
Oh my
and you
gosh,
use a
don't tell
different
me you
name.
pulled what's his name on Friends? He says the wrong name over the altar.
Uh-huh.
He says Jennifer Aniston's character's name. Oh, geez, I'm ruining the
I got-
reference. But Friends.
I got you. So I think that there's just a little bit of grace for understanding and realizing if I do that with numbers, I just double check them. That's okay.
And this is what I want your evaluation on as my mentor, what you think of this, because my solution isn't to buckle down and like practice numbers. It's like I have tools and I've already started building a spreadsheet, Kris, with the math on getting a HELOC.
Yeah.
And I just punch in the numbers and then it spits me out. All the math that you do in your head, I do on a spreadsheet. And that's how I've gotten through, 10 years of helping you run businesses. I'm like, I trust a spreadsheet because I know I'm not gonna
actually
be able to do it
asking
quick.
you though to develop a different skill.
Okay.
So I'm glad that you have a proof for longhand and you do it well. But dude, sometimes you're out there and you're joshing with an investor that says, well, I've got a deal. I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. Sometimes you don't have time for a spreadsheet. So sometimes the ability to do something basic, like for example, let's do equity on what you would consider a difficult one and I'll show you my cheat. Give me a really funky number on a house that we want to do the equity pullout on.
House is worth 7-Eleven.
Okay, so when I hear 7-Eleven, I'm just going to round down to 700. Why? The 11,000 doesn't matter.
Cheating.
I'm totally cheating. Tell me what's owed on it. Give me a weird, funky number.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you owe 327.
Okay, if I round down, I'm going to be aggressive. If I round up, I'm going to be conservative, right?
Yeah.
So let's round up to 350. So now I
You'd go that far.
we're talking about pennies. We took 7-Eleven to 7, and then we took 327 up to 350. And I'm like, oh, well, what's 10% of 700?
70.
What's 70 from 700?
630.
630. What do we owe? We rounded up to 3.
I was gonna say 327.
No,
We owe
350.
350.
Yeah. But by the way, actually something cool happened. You said 630. I could round 327 up to 330. So 330
Oh, no, I
to
can
630
do it
is
quick.
it's 300.
Yeah.
Right? So I can still get to it really quick. I don't have to get caught up on the extra digits. This is the math that I want you to be able to do when you look at something. There's another equation that I really like to use as an investor, and it's called the rule of 72.
Okay.
Anytime you're trying to figure out how your money can grow with time, a great sniff test on whether it's a good investment or a bad investment is how many years does it take to multiply?
Yeah.
What the rule of 72 says, and I think Galileo or someone in the 1500s figured out a hack for compound interest.
Because
based on-
compound interest is super complicated.
you'd
By
have
the
to-
way, I built it into my spreadsheet.
I'm
There's
sure you
like
did.
some crazy
Yeah,
formulas.
But watch what this formula says. Well, I'm talking to a potential investor. They have money and I have a deal. And they say, well, I got my money in 401k. It's like, okay, well, your 30-year average on your 401k is right around 4%. So it's 72 divided by 4. Now go ahead and pull out your calculator for this. It's okay if you can't do that division.
It's okay if I'm not Matilda this time.
No, it's okay. So just
72 divided by 4? 18.
18. It will take you 18 years for your 401k to double. But I've got a deal right here, and we're making 30%. What's 72 divided by 30?
2.4.
My money is doubling every 2.4 years. Your money is doubling every 18.
18, and
My
it's-
money doubles every 2.4. Let me ask you, do you really want to keep your rollover 401k or you want to get in on something real? I literally just found money. And when you become an investor that knows the math, here's the cool part. You don't need money to make money. What you need is a little bit of simple math, and what you are is a deal maker. If I can find the deal, And if it's a good deal, 30% ROI, the money is out there. But then you have to learn, how can I can throw principles at that person and be like, well, you should use your 401k for these reasons. Right. But honestly, it's just like math is a language that cuts to the core so quickly. Mm-hmm. And it's like when they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, I think math is worth 1,000,000. Do you want your money to double in 18 years or 2 years?
Yeah, well, and it becomes irrefutable.
Yeah. And so being able to do these very simple equations, I think, allows you to interface with people as a real investor. And also, if you can just train the math, you're like, is it okay for me to pull up my calculator and say, well, your money's doubling every 18 years versus 2.4? Let me ask you. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, what's 18 divided by 2.4? Was it 2.4 or 2.2? I can't remember the.
2.4.
Okay, 2.4. What's 18 divided by 2.4?
7.5.
Your money will grow how many times faster?
7.5 times.
7.5 times faster in real estate than a 401k. That's the difference between retiring poor and retiring rich. Done. Now you're compelling. Mm-hmm. Because adjectives will never be. Have you ever had an argument with your wife and you fling adjectives at her and then she flings adjectives at you, and then hours later, no one has moved the needle? We're both at the same standstill.
It's this really weird thing too, having experienced quite a bit in customer service. People also think that their feelings are facts.
Yeah.
That it's like I feel this way, which means I'm right.
It's very hard to be right when someone's opinion is their own choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we use the math, because it's just a really fast way to not get lost and like, well, I heard Dave Ramsey say you should pay stuff up. I'm like, do you want to make 7.5 times more money than the choice you're currently making? That's the math I need my apprentice to learn. So when you're connecting and communicating with people, all of a sudden they can get to an aha way faster instead of getting landlocked in a debate.
So the math on a HELOC and what you can typically
Yeah, how much can you pull out? That's useful.
The math on getting ROI.
Yeah, how much money am I making on this?
Rule of 72.
Rule of 72.
What else?
Honestly, I think those are some of the biggest ones right there. If I were to go one level more advanced,
okay,
I do think you should know how to calculate ROI according to the 4 ROIs. In real estate, there are 4 ROIs.
Okay.
And when we talk about return on investment, someone might come at you and say, well, what's the cap rate? Well, we don't use that in real estate. We use your ROI. Well, okay, well, what's my ROI? Well, there's 4 of them. This is where, when I'm going to say it, you're going to say, that's complicated. But I say it the same way every time. So anyone listening to this right now, this podcast, that learns what I'm about to say, you're going to literally go from novice to ninja. And here's the 4 ROIs. The first one is called a cash-on-cash ROI. We already talked about how you calculate it. The cash-on-cash is, I put investment money out there. Let's say I put $80,000 down on a property. I transferred it from my home equity, a 401k, I put it into this thing. I put 80 grand down. So cash-on-cash ROI is, how much money am I getting every month on the money I put out? So what's the cash I'm making on the cash I put in? That's why it's called a cash-on-cash. Mm-hmm. And so let's just say that you're getting $400 a month of cash flow, net. That means after vacancies, after repairs. So,
because it's net, because the mortgage is covered.
Yeah. So take your $400, that's your 400 profit. And because you've already taken out vacancies, we can calculate all 12 months. So what's 400 times 12?
48.
It's 4,800. So I'm putting 80 grand out and I get 4,800 every year coming in. So here's ROI. My gain divided by investment times 100. My gain is 4,800, put it in.
By 80K?
Divided by the investment you put out, 80,000.
0.06?
Times it by 100.
6.
You're getting a 6% cash on cash. So I'm sitting down with this investor and he's
per
like—
year?
Per year.
So if I held it for 4 years, then it's 6, 12, 18, 24?
You got it. Yes.
Okay.
Now watch, this is cool. Okay. Now anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you've ever wanted to be in real estate and you've always were like, I'm intimidated by the numbers, I'm giving it to you how to do it right now. Because let's just go back with this example of the guy with a 401k rollover. And you just finished saying, well, I'm literally making 7.5 times more money than you. Your money's going to double in 18 years. By the way, in 18 years, you're going to be at retirement. If you double your 401k, is that really what you need? No, it's not. In real estate, my money doubles every 2.4 years. 7.5 times faster. Do you see that? So then they get curious and they're like, well, how does this work? Like you said that you have a 30% ROI. Can you break it down for me? I'm like, yeah, let's do pen and paper and let me educate you on this. Here's the first one. We're going to write it down. Cash on cash ROI, 6%. How do we break that down? Well, it's simple. $400 a month, that's our net, $4,800 a year, divided by the 80,000 times 100. So you're making 6%. Well, my 401k is making me 5%. That's not a whole lot more. Yeah, but that's the first of 4 ROIs.
Yep.
Okay. It's like, well, what's the next one? The next one is called principal reduction. What's that? Well, when your mortgage is being paid, a part of it goes towards your principal and a part to your interest. Most of it is interest, but some of it is principal. And when I buy homes under $300,000, on average, 4% is my annual ROI. It's a coefficient. That means it's kind of a static rule of thumb number that you can use every time. So you don't have to do math.
Because it fluctuates.
It's because it's part of the, there's that word again, amortization schedule, which means it changes every year. But on a 5-year average, a home under $300,000 is going to net you 4%. And so someone says, well, I can't conceptualize what you mean by that. And it's like, okay, it's like this. My house is worth $250,000, and every month I'm making a payment on it. So principal's getting paid off. In 5 years, when I sell that home, that principal that the renter paid, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to actualize it, and that's a return on investment. And so the cash on cash I get today, the principal reduction I get at the end when I sell the asset, but I keep track of it because it's part of the total ROI. And now I'm getting 4%. So 6% is my
Cash on cash.
4% is my
Principal pay down.
principal reduction. And you can call it principal pay down. Now we're at 6 plus 4 is a total of what? We're at a 10% ROI. We're now at double what your 401k's 30-year average is at 5%. You following the math?
100%.
Number 3 is another easy one. This one is called the tax depreciation ROI. Let's just assume you're in a 20% average tax bracket. If you buy a home under $300,000, you get to depreciate that home over 27 and a half years. By the way, the numbers I'm giving you are static. They're always the same. They never change. Depreciation, did I just do it wrong? Is it 28 and a half years? I think I actually just pulled a Carson and I said the number wrong. I think it's every 28 and a half years you get to depreciate. I want you to understand this math. This is a really big deal. First of all, when in doubt, I'm just going to ChatGPT. I can depreciate a single family home over how many years? Question mark. And the answer is, I said it right, 27 and a half years. Somewhere in my brain I got 28 and a half. So Carson, watch what I'm doing. We're talking about this $300,000 home, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pulling out my calculator. I want you to do this with me.
Okay.
Take $300,000 in, and then I want you to divide it by 27.5.
10,909.
$10,900 is what you get to write off every year. Now remember, what was our cash flow per year?
400.
Nope.
6%.
Yes, but how much was the amount that you get cash in hand?
We said like 400 a month.
4,800
Oh, a year.
a year. So I'm going to take my 10,900 of write-offable income. I'm going to subtract my 4,800, and now that $4,800 is tax-free because I still have $6,100 left over. That goes against my income. It's going to lower my income. It's going to lower my taxes. So here's the coefficient. You ready for it? I gave it to you so you understand it. But for the third ROI, here's what we're saying. Ready? A $300,000 home on average, if I'm in a 20% tax bracket, will save me about a 3% annual ROI in the form of taxes I'm not going to pay. Let that sink in. It's a static number for homes under $300,000, assuming a 20%. Now, someone might say, well, my tax bracket is higher or lower. That's okay. I'm giving you a close approximation of the tax benefit of real estate, 3%. Right. So now we had a cash on cash of how much? Do you remember? 6%.
6, 4, 3,
then we had
so
a
up to
principal reduction
13.
of 4%, and now we have a tax depreciation ROI of
13.
3. So now we're at a total of 13%. The conversation that I'm having right now with anyone that's listening, if you just listen to this and repeat it verbatim and learn it the way I'm saying it, most of what I'm doing is not math. Most of what I'm doing are just facts of numbers that I can speak to that make me sound smart. And the truth is I am smart because I know this. You can know this too. It's mostly rote memorization. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Now, what's the fourth ROI, the final one?
The one everybody loves, appreciation.
Appreciation, right? Now, this is math that's probably a little bit more than most math, but it's still fifth grade math, okay? Here's what I would do. Where do you own your home? You want to say...
My primary or an investment property?
Your investment property. Let's say it's in Florida.
Ocala, yep.
Yeah. Last year, what was the average appreciation in Ocala, Florida? I'm asking ChatGPT.
Because it changes every year.
It changes every year. And it says in 2024, well, it's giving me a lot of different facts, but we're going to say 6%.
Okay.
Okay? So now here's what we got to know. We said that this is a $300,000 house, right? You're going to type $300,000 into your calculator, and then we're going to times it by that year's appreciation, times 0.06.
1,800.
It's 18,000. That your home is scheduled. I know, we were watching it. Brother, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so 18,000. So that means that my $300,000 home next year approximately should be worth what-ish?
318.
$318,000. Is that exactly what it is?
No, I mean,
No, but we're doing what's called a pro forma. We're looking into the future. We're saying, what's next year's scheduled appreciation be? Let's say it's 6. Oh, what do we think it's going to average for the next 5 years? If it were 6, let's do this math. We're 18,000 next year. Okay?
Okay.
So now here's the quick math. I want to know what my appreciation ROI is. I gained 18,000. The ROI, here's how we do ROI. We take our gain.
18,000.
We're going to divide it by the
3.
investment of 80,000.
Oh, not the whole value of the home.
Nope, just by what you put out.
Because I don't really care about the value of the home because I had leverage to
You
buy
got
it. I care about what I put in.
Yes.
Huh.
So I'm going to take my gain divided by what I put out, just like on the cash on cash. My gain divided by what I put out. Times it by 100, you get 22.5%.
22.5.
Now add your 13 to this. Remember, 6% cash on cash, 4% principal reduction, 3% tax, 22.5% appreciation. Now you're sitting at a 35.5% ROI. Remember what we just told 401k man. How many times more money?
7.5.
7.5 times more money as long as we're earning 30%. I'm projecting
35.
35%. My numbers are conservative. Do you want to invest with me? Well, guess what? What I just said here in 10 minutes, it's the same conversation over and over and over again. And if I had known this 20 whatever years ago when I started in real estate, this is what intimidated the heck out of me. But what I just gave you in 10 minutes is what allows me to be on the go, no spreadsheet, cell phone only. I can say it, I can communicate it, and I can do it. Now someone wants to invest with me.
Now you get a whole room of people to agree that maybe paying off your home first thing isn't the smartest thing because you used numbers.
So we look at how did I get the rest of the room to agree with me? Part of it was I knew the math, and that was the part you're bringing up. Like, that was impressive. Is that a savant thingy? Like, are you just genius, or is this just a stupid rote memory 5th grader skill that I've honed? That's all it is, Carson. That's all it is. Now I combine that then with what you gave, which was fantastic argument. You did actually. I loved the arguments that you gave. If they had been combined with math, your argument would have become a super argument. And then all of a sudden, instead of, I don't know, how many people raised the hand halfway through the game before I took over?
I think I got 3, 2, 3.
You got 2 or 3 out of 8?
Before you came in and tore it
Yeah.
up.
So, you got a quarter of the room. I brought it all the way because I took the same principles, frankly, that you were saying. I paired them up with.
Well, and I got to be honest, Kris, if I had the math at my fingertips like that, I would have also come in with a different level of confidence.
Yeah.
Because I have the numbers and it's hard to refute them. Because the only way to refute math is then you go to an emotional argument, which several of them did. It's like, well, that's
We're always going
scary,
to gravitate to our
or
lowest
that's
level of training
risky.
and systems and feelings, and that's what they did.
Yep.
There was a gentleman there that had some very strong feelings, but feelings are overcomable with what?
Numbers.
Yeah. So when head versus heart, and it's time to make a logical decision, which finance always is, it's like emotions have a place, and they're usually misplaced. When we go to a place of logic, I want to make sound financial decisions.
Yep.
By the way, the math that we just covered here in this session, anyone that's listening to this is like, I want to be a real estate investor, re-listen to this, and this is how you get good at something. Your training starts with rote memory, and then from there, you can then get creative and do spin-offs. How I became really good like 20 plus years ago before real estate, I was doing phone sales. And phone sales ended up like I could earn some higher commissions. I gained confidence. Learning how to sell was useful because guess what real estate includes?
Deal making.
I'd buy a house and I had to make a deal. I had to sell a lease option, and I had some skills that overlapped. And so it's interesting that how I got good at sales was just taking the best people at the company. I listened to what they said and how they said it. I would get it verbatim, and at first I just practiced verbatim. So anyone that is like, well, I want to be an investor, but the math intimidates me. I literally covered almost all the math you're ever going to use in real estate. ROI, rule of 72 is a bonus. How much of your home equity can you use? Those 3 principles right there, like that's probably the majority of the math I ever use. And if there's any other math, if it's compounding, I just use a cheat calculator. But most of the time it's just 5th grade. So what I would say is put your spreadsheet aside, practice using this simple tool, and then put it in the calculator and compare. and just challenge yourself to get good at, hey, I'm doing on the spot math. And something that might help you catch your numbers is when you're talking to someone, your cheat might be writing things out. Because I bet it's harder to say 1,800 when you actually write down that fourth zero and it says 18,000.
Yep.
Makes sense?
Yeah, I'm tracking. Yeah, man, that was powerful actually going out there and talking to people and debating them about a concept. It really challenges what you know. I think that was like one of the better tests, right? Like of all the tests I've ever done in school, in life, like going out there and being challenged to communicate an idea against someone who disagrees, really challenged like, what do I know?
Well, and I've read some of the comments. There's people out there are like, how important is this really? And I'm like, let me tell you where it's important. Everyone has a finite amount of this stuff. We all run out of it. When you started, you had no money. So you saved up money for a tiny 3% down payment. You bought a house with a great hack that you could rent out the basement. Your job started doing better, but you also saved more because you didn't have as high of a liability as the average person. You cut it down. By the time that house could be cashed out to buy more real estate, you are now multiplying your money. And this is where you're at. You now have a net worth around $1 million. I'm helping you and Shalina not bury it into a single project. The goal is to keep multiplying it.
Yep.
But eventually you run out. So I've got a game plan for you that shows you how you can buy several more homes. And then you're going to get to a point where you're going to say, but Kris, now I'm stuck again. Like I might have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4 years before I can pull some money out of my investments. What should I do in the meantime? I'm like, bro, you've now done like 10 deals. If you can speak my speak and you have access to deals, all the money in the world is out there as long as you can talk like I can talk. So that's why I want you to be compelling. That's why I want you to be able to convince other people. It's not just for when you invest your own money. It's that technically if you've done 10 houses with 10 partners just like you could do 100, right?
Yeah.
And now there's no limit to your wealth because you learned the most important secret in life financially, which is as long as you're only going to grow yourself financially based on what you have, you'll always be limited. Tell me what you were starting with and I'll tell you where you're going to end up. But if we can unlock using other people's money, then there's no limit anymore. You've removed the most important limiter. What limits most people from ever growing, acquiring a business, buying more real estate? They always say, I don't have money. This is why you want to learn this speak.